How you doing, guys? Before I get started, I'd like to thank my subscribers out there for supporting my channel. Haven't been out here for about a week, had some things to take care of. But after my last video, I had a lot of things that come to my head about certain corporate similarities between Watchtower and other corporations. Corporate America, I love that expression. Anyways, it was maybe about 8 years ago. I used to work for this very large corporation that's been known to crush others pretty much out of existence all around the world. I'm not going to mention it by name, but it was while I was working there. Actually, I was only there for about a year and a half. I don't mold with corporations too well. And I've noticed the few corporate jobs I've had was always the best thing that's ever happened to me. This come from coworkers as well as management. And like I said, I've never molded well with corporations just due to the control that they have. And I've always ended up leaving with coworkers telling me, as well as management, this is the worst mistake of your life. Which obviously today I'm looking back on it, and that's not the case. Well, I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses when I was working this job. When I became one of Jehovah's Witnesses, obviously work was kind of, I couldn't work as freely as I used to, and I was going through a lot of hardships because of it. I had come across this job, and like I said, I was only there for about maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years at best, and I started noticing a lot of similarities. The big boss there was a very pompous ass. He used to love to lord it over his employees, just how much power he had. He was over probably about 800 people. Maybe more than that, I'm not sure. One day he made the comment to me, "Do you know how much power I have over you?" Not a good thing to say to Vinny. But, what the hell. As opposed to knocking him on his ass, I simply said, well, in reality, you don't have power over me. You have power over my position here, but over me, no. He couldn't argue the point, so we let it go at that, but I wasn't there for much longer. But I noticed one thing, especially with Watchtower and corporate America, they have something known as progressive discipline. See, if you screw up on a job, unless you screw up really, really bad, you're rarely going to get fired on the first shot. This basically covers their tail as far as unemployment goes. They want it on record that we did try to straighten them out, which I've actually tested that theory, and it doesn't work if you fight it. But progressive discipline, if you mess up on a job. Now, I've noticed corporate places basically, whether you screw up or not, they like to keep you teetering. They like to keep your job always on the line as though you're on the verge of being fired, which is a way they keep people under control. It's a fear factor. Another similarity to Watchtower. What they will do first is they will give you a verbal warning. This will be put on your record. Now, the other thing management won't do is they won't talk to you or give you any type of warning alone. They will have somebody there with them as a witness. This way you can't say, well, he said this, which also sounds familiar to Watchtower. Now, after the verbal warning, if you screw up again within that 6-month period, they will do what they call, basically they will write you up. Now there's a warning on paper, although it's all on record. This was the second warning. And the same thing, they will have somebody there. You sign it away. I personally opt not to sign it, but it doesn't make a difference. It's still on your record. Now, after that, 3 strikes, you're out. You'll either be suspended or terminated. Now, if you're terminated, and it's not such a bad, I'm trying to think of the word right now, I'm drawing a blank on it. If you're not considered non-rehirable, you could probably reapply for the job in another 6 months, of course at a pay cut. But basically the 3rd strike and you're terminated. This way, if you take it to unemployment, they look at the record and say, well, you were warned here, you got a written warning here, and they had no choice but to terminate you. Okay. This, like I said, this has happened to me, and I actually fought it and won. But I started noticing the similarities between that and Watchtower. Now, if you look at the 3 strikes you're out, progressive discipline. I've had a number of judicial hearings, and personally, it's a kangaroo court. I think we all know that. The first one is the equivalent to the verbal warning. They pull you into the back room and slap you on the wrist with a private reproof. Nobody knows it, okay, except you and the kangaroos that are in that room. Another situation comes up. This time it'll be a public reproof. Okay, the entire congregation knows you had your wrist slapped. Okay, third time's a charm. They're not going to publicly reprove you again, because it's like, how many times is this guy going to be reproved? They will disfellowship you, which in essence is equivalent to being terminated from a job. Yeah, okay, you can apply to come back in, say, a 6-month period and go through the whole torture of being treated like a dunce. That's how I felt about it. You might as well be sitting up in front of the Kingdom Hall with a dunce cap on. So I'm not putting myself through that. But that would be the equivalent to being fired from a corporate job. Unless, of course, you're not rehirable, basically from doing what I'm doing, these videos. They would not consider me able to come back as one of Jehovah's Witnesses because of these videos, as well as anyone else who is doing them. These were the similarities I've noticed. They also exercise a great deal of power over you. Much like the corporate jobs, they keep you teetering. They keep you always in fear. You're afraid to say anything because somebody may turn you in. You're afraid of being pulled back into the back room with the elders because you're afraid of being disfellowshipped. The other thing that they encourage is turning each other in. I notice this in the corporate place. That's the same standard. If somebody sees something, you're encouraged to turn them in. Save the company, save the company. Much like that, save the Kingdom Hall. They had more of a corporate mentality than they did a spiritual one. After I left this job, it was not too long after I started fading. I started realizing that this was not a place of worship. It really wasn't. It was a corporation. And that was evident from all the way to the top, all the way down. The elders, in essence, were the managers, the branch managers. And that was how I started viewing them. Their job was not to shepherd the flock, but more or less keep them in line, much like managers in a business. And that's all they were. I started seeing this more and more. And I think it was about a year after I left this corporate job that I started fading. I just started seeing one thing after another. And it was no longer a place of worship to me. It was a high control, much like a corporate job. I never got along very well in a corporate situation, whether it be work-related or whether it be, well, Watchtower. Obviously, I'm not there. But the funny thing is, as far as hearing from my former coworkers about being the worst mistake of your life by leaving, one of these corporations is no longer in existence today, yet I am still going. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to say, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. If you would, leave your comments, and if you come across this video, hit the subscribe button. Guys, I'll talk to you soon. You have a good day.